Welcome to the I Am Radio TV network. Today we are pleased to present a new premiere show, Let's Get Real, with your host, Jeffrey Miller. Now get ready to go. Interactive. And good afternoon. How are you today? Welcome to IMTV, the Let's Get Real show. I am your host, Jeffrey Miller. I am in studio today solo. I have a guest. And I'll tell you, there's a perfect reason for that. I felt that the time was right just to pop in here myself and to, first of all, thank all of the faithful, supportive folks, all of you that have been supporting the channel, both with the I Am Radio TV Network.com, going to our YouTube channel, the Facebook page, my Facebook page. We have had some phenomenal guests on, and we've got a huge lineup coming up in the near future. Really, really good, really good. And, you know, the goal of this show, Let's Get Real, is simply that. It's to talk about the stuff that we need today in our society to talk about, stuff that's got to get out there. Now, I'm going to put a preface on that, and that preface is simply this. I don't want to get overly political. In fact, I really would rather not get political at all. However, there are some subjects that actually lead themselves to, unfortunately, politics. Most everything we do today, it seems to have some kind of a political component, if you know what I mean. And I don't mean Democrat, Republican, Independent, but then again, there's a political component to a lot that's going on today in this world. Think about all we've been going through since when? How long ago we told, no, don't go out, stay home, you can't go out, you can't leave, COVID-19. I'm not disputing that, by the way. I'm not here to dispute that. I know a lot of people would love to dispute it. A lot of people call it conspiracy theory. The theory that it is a conspiracy. I'm not so sure about that. I don't think all the ammunition is loaded in the gun on that one yet, and I don't think all the information is ready to have a trial on it yet either. However, there's a lot out there, and it's really upsetting a lot of people. There have been a lot of deaths in this country. There's no question about it. A lot of people haven't made it. Now, there's the other side of that coin that says they might not have anyway. They could get the flu, they could get a really bad cold, they could get a lung infection. I sat down this past week, and I had a wonderful guest on the other day, Olenka Cullinan. I've had some great guests on previous weeks, and I got some great guests coming back on show next week to the Let's Get Real show. And we're going to talk about life stuff. Today, I thought, every now and then we got to get something off the chest, okay? Everybody individually needs to get something off their chest. And a lot of people might say, no, I don't agree with you. And a lot of people might say, yeah, I agree. Or they're kind of, because that's who we are as individuals. Each and every one of us was created as an individual. This brings up a subject, and that subject has to do with equality. Whoever made up that word anyway, equality? Well, wait a minute. Doesn't it mean we're all equal? Isn't that what that means? Because the word racial has jumped into it over the years. And I don't mean yesterday, I don't mean last week, and I certainly don't mean in the last 3 months at the beginning of COVID-19. However, it has been something that's been brought up for a long, long time. Actually, it started many, 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 many years ago where there was racial inequality. That leads me to another question. Why? Why was there any racial inequality at all? Why is there racial inequality at all? And I mean inequality because we should be equal. There should be equality, not inequality. There shouldn't be hatred. People shouldn't be saying, I hate you, or I hate the color of your skin, or I hate where you live, or I hate that you're poor. I hate that you're rich. Oh, goodness, that's been said. Not to me. I'm wealthy in many, many, many other ways. And I don't worry about the dollars and cents stuff like I used to when I was young, raising a family, building businesses as an entrepreneur, because that was what was inbred into me. You've got to get out there and you got to make the bucks or you don't make it. You ain't got nothing if you don't have the 2 cars in the driveway, the boat at the dock, the fancy house. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm not pointing the finger at anybody who has that, who's earned that lives with that. If you've earned it, God bless you, you deserve it. You deserve it. But there are plenty that wish they had it. There are plenty that wish they had an extra $100 a week just to pay the bills, just to get enough food on the table, to pay for the lights, to pay for the gas, to pay for the repair in the car. You know, that's inequality. Well, people say, well, they haven't earned it. Really? Maybe they haven't been able to. Maybe they haven't been given the opportunity to. You know, there's all kinds of things. We can go around this thing like a big beach ball. We can roll right around with that beach ball as it goes towards the water. And once it gets to the water, it's all going to get washed off. Okay? Because whatever you put on the ball is going to leave the ball as soon as it hits the water. It's going to go splash. And we're going to come back to square one. We all think about why is there inequality? One of the things, in fact, there are a lot of reasons I did this show, and I am doing this show on this network, is that we've got to get the word out there. There are plenty of people. I mean, as I said earlier, we've interviewed some great ladies recently. We've got some great guys lined up in the very near future as well. And people are realizing that, you know, I have a message. I have a message, and darn it, I want to get it out there. I'd love the world to be able to hear that message. Well, I too have a message, and that's part of what I'm going to accomplish today, like it or not like it. And I'm not trying to be facetious here at all. Look behind me in the studio, and you see all these TV cameras, right? Every one of them is a reflection of world news. I'm a reflection of world news, even though it's my personal show and it's my personal opinion on this show right now. And by the way, if you are here live with me, please pop something into the comments. Let me know that you see the broadcast. Let me know you are here. And as we're moving along, please do ask your questions, because there is a place over there in the chat. I would love to have your questions as we move forward here. And I do see we've got some people on live. I'm very happy to see that. Don't be bashful. And as I get talking, if you've got something that you think, and if it's to the contrary, say it, because that is what it's all about. That creates the individual that you are today. So, going to get right back to basics. As I said, looking around me, you see what the world view is. Now, each one of these screens can represent, metaphorically, would represent a news broadcast of something that's going on everywhere in the U.S. easily, and potentially around the world. And you can see back there where the logo is, oops, that shoulder, excuse me, that away. It says Studio One Live IMTV. Well, underneath there, you'll see there's some other channels. There's some other TV screens. And again, metaphorically, those could be Europe. Those could be from who knows where, down under, Australia, New Zealand. And then the ones that are over on this side of me, that side of me, I got to point backwards correctly, would be all U.S. stuff going on. And, you know, there are still a lot of things happening out there right now. We've got a lot with some breaking news last night, Supreme Court rulings, and I'm not going to get into all that stuff. I'm not. But boy, oh boy, as they used to say, there is a lot to talk about. What I would like to do, I wrote something as I just closed my eyes and focused on stuff I've been going through, stuff that's been going on in the world. And I'll tell you what, yeah. Oh, David, hey, brother, how are you? That's my buddy David Ferrari. He's still in Vegas, David. Well, I'm going to talk about how all is well, and thank you so much, and for the congratulations, brother. We so appreciate that, David. Haven't seen you forever. David is an amazing guy, and you pop in there, David, what you're doing out in Vegas right now. You know, give us a little, I'll give you a little blurb out there. So that said, before I get going too far, I'll let David have a minute to tell us what's going on. Put a link up there, David, if you like. I'd love to advertise it out with what's going on with you. See, we got a lot of people watching. I've got 2 screens going on right now. I want to thank Jason Cole, my granddaughter Kristen, Jeff Dyer, thank you, David. Let's see, Krish Dunham, brother, thank you so very much. Yeah, and I think with this, there's more there, but it's tough for me to look. I'm looking in the phone and on the teleprompter here. So here we go. So that said, David, fantastic. David's a show producer out in Vegas now, guys. So thanks, David. So I'm going to get to the meat of what's going on with this thing, guys. I got to pop up a couple of things here. I'd love for you, if you would, please, as the ticker says down at the bottom, subscribe to our YouTube channel at www.imradiotvnetwork.com. Fill out the information, and there's a special prize there. I call it a surprise, a gift away program that we are offering for everybody that would love to join with us, meaning that you'd like to know when these broadcasts go live. And there will be other shows coming along shortly, not just by this mug, but by other folks that are going to have shows here on the network, the IMTV network. Okay, so here we go. I'm going to get to this. I am going to read it. It's actually 4 pages long, and you're going to go, oh, gee, Jeff, you know. You're going to read something 4 pages long. I'll try to not look like somebody standing up behind a podium just reading their speech. And as I say, I don't really have a teleprompter in front of me to do this. There is a lot to say. It's from my heart. It's really how I feel about stuff these days. And let's see. I got to make sure I'm checking all messages. David, thank you again, brother. Oh, here we go. Folks, David Ferrari Productions, davidferrariproductions.com. If you're going to get out to Vegas, check out David's show. It is amazing, amazing, amazing. And Antonio, thank you, brother. Appreciate it. God bless you, too. And we're going to be doing a little chat about God here quite shortly there, Antonio. So you hang around, please. And that said, okay, I'm going to get going on this, and I'll check chat again in a few minutes. This is going to be a few minutes to get through this. This is from my heart. This is how I feel. This isn't necessarily how you feel about this subject, but it's how I feel it's going to be said, and it's going to be said by me because it's what I think. Personally, I've just begun my 68th revolution around the sun. Imagine that. Been spun around this ball for just into my 68th year, on the 2nd of June. 67 plus years of life experience, which equates to experiencing many times over not only sadness, but great joy in this life. I've been living with the emotions and side effects of stage 4 prostate cancer for close to 3 years now. If that's not enough, today, more than any other day, I'm feeling the emotions of sadness, disbelief, and despair by the goings-on in this country, the United States of America, and also the world. As a child of the 60s, I learned how to hide under a desk at school due to the threat of nuclear attack from Russia. They had missiles sitting down in Cuba with Fidel Castro pointed at us, and that was the reign of Fidel Castro, and I'm not going to remember who the Russian boss was then, but it was the JFK era. I have witnessed many conflicts in this country and others, including the Vietnamese War, the Vietnam War, where I lost many friends, both physically and emotionally. I witnessed the space race and man's first steps on the moon. I have lived during the assassinations of the Kennedys, Martin Luther King, and others, and also watched the aftermath as a result. I've lived in Boston during the era of forced busing, and I chose to drive a school bus in the midst of that through black neighborhoods, as they're called, racial neighborhoods, to do my part to help bring about racial equality, not inequality, but equality. And now back today, I am compelled to talk about how I feel even more. To preface, this is not a political speech. I'm not running for no office. Did that a few times long ago, and I'm all set with that. However, I do have some stuff to say about political office. It's not partisan. It's quite, on the other hand, nonpartisan, what I'm going to speak about. We've also been living, as you all know, through what is now considered the worst pandemic this country and the world has seen since the 1918 Spanish flu. And they say it ain't done yet. It ain't done yet. Now with well over 100,000 dead. And, I've tried to stop the counting because it gets really sad, doesn't it? Furthermore, we as a nation, I feel personally, we're imploding. Not exploding, but imploding from the inside. Just like when they take a large skyscraper down and there's buildings around it, they implode the building. I feel that this country is going in that direction right now. We're dealing with leadership in this country on all levels, both parties. There's, again, not talking about any one party here, and this is where I don't want to be political. However, it comes to that, doesn't it? They think only of themselves. Why? What happens when their constituents elect them to the office, send them to the position that they're supposed to represent their constituents from the district they're from, and then they're kind of like forgetting about what's going on back home? There's a big question right there. Their agendas are no longer representative of the constituents who elected them, and they pay them to serve in that office. They live by a party rule, either Democrat or Republican, like it's theirs and theirs alone. I think they've forgotten something, haven't they? We the people of the United States of America seem to be the only breadwinners, and we are the pawns to pay for it all on all they choose to do. When was the last time your elected official actually asked you, how may I serve you? How may I serve you? I'm your elected official. Quite likely never, or maybe a long time ago. Watching and listening to what's going on in our nation's capital as well over the last couple of weeks. Woo! Unbelievable. Unbelievable. Senseless killing of both citizens, police across our country. Many people have chosen to enact their First Amendment rights to a peaceful protest, only met with tear gas and rubber bullets by an unknown military police. And that actually happened. Our First Amendment, the United States, clearly states that the Congress shall make no law abridging the freedom of speech or the press or the right of people to peaceably assemble. Oh, but wait a minute. Then there's those who take advantage of that situation, who think it's their time to come out, riot, loot, and destroy somebody else's personal property for their gain. And what is it doing to the people in the wake of what's left behind that's worked their butt off to have a little shop or a store, to eke out a living for all these years, to have it torn apart by somebody who's looting or rioting? Disgusting. That's what that is. And it has nothing to do with color here, folks. It's just disgusting. Now this brings me to part of where I have to say, again, if our elected officials, those who believe in God, which I pray they all do, including our president, chose to represent us as the word of God suggests, I believe that our country would be in a much more peaceful situation today, as would other places in the world. Now I'd like to talk about what we call the one another's. And this is where some people might leave me in the dust. And I appreciate that. If that's the way it's going to go, that's the way it's going to go. I am a believing man. I've been a sinner. I have done a lot of wrong in my life. I'm not a murderer or any of that bad stuff, but we all, as people, human beings, no matter what the color of the skin or where you grew up, have done something wrong in your life. It's part of being the human being that we are. It is the way we were created. We do things wrong. And that goes back to what we call original sin. To preface, the phrase one another is derived from the Greek word alenon, which means one another, each other, mutually or reciprocally. It actually occurs over 100 times in the New Testament of the Bible, and approximately 59 of those occurrences are specific commands teaching us how and how not to relate to one another. Quite interesting. All in that book. Isn't that interesting? Obedience to those commands is imperative. It not only forms the basis for all true Christian communities, but also how we all should live and act towards one another. And I only can imagine what the world would be like. Also, it has a direct impact on our witness to the world, as is written in John 13:35. In addition to Al-Anon, the Bible uses other words and phrases to instruct us how to relate to others. With that in mind, the following list is not exhaustive, but primarily focuses on the use of the word. And these are the positive commands. Now, if you're still with me, God bless you. I thank you. If you're not, you're not. But still, again, I had to say this, and I'm going to continue. So, the positive commands, and I'm going to go to love one another. This command occurs at least 16 times, to be devoted to one another, And I'm not going to give the verses in the page, but you certainly can look them up. To live in harmony with one another, to build up one another, to build up one another. Excuse me, I said that. To be like-minded towards one another, to accept one another, to admonish one another, to greet one another, to care for one another, to serve one another, to bear one another's burdens, to forgive one another, to be patient with one another, to speak the truth in love. Wow, that's a big one right there. To be kind and compassionate to one another, to speak to one another with psalms, hymns, and spiritual songs, to submit to one another, to consider others better than yourselves, to look to the interests of one another, to teach one another, to comfort one another, to encourage one another, to exhort one another, to stir up or stimulate one another to love and good works, to show hospitality, to employ the gifts that God has given us for the benefit of one another, to clothe yourselves with humility towards one another, to pray for one another, to confess your faults to one another. And now, how not to treat one another. Do not lie. Stop passing judgment on others. If you keep on biting and devouring each other, they say in the book, you will be destroying each other. Let us not become conceited, provoked, or envying each other. Do not slander one another. Don't grumble against each other. We do all of this because we are, in a real sense, members of one another. Now I'd like to conclude with this final thought. Do you think, or better yet, believe that if we lived by these truths, the world and the United States of America would be in a really a better place? Because I certainly do. I certainly do. Again, I'll see. Jeanette, how are you? Christopher Badeau. John, how are you? Thanks for being with me. These are important things. And somebody say, well, where did that come from? Well, it came from the Bible, actually, and is very easily found. And just for a moment, if you think of all I just said, and yes, I read it because I couldn't remember every one of them, and probably I should be able to, but I still have to go and open that book up and read it a lot, more than often every day. And the reason is because I find it is comfort. Think about for a minute what would be if our world was based on those values, if our government was run on those values, if we looked to our fellow brothers and sisters. I don't care about the color of your skin. God created us all unique. He created us unique to the point where we are each different, but we are the same, except maybe we don't have the same pigmentation in our skin. Maybe we don't talk the same. Maybe we don't speak the same language. There's a reason for that too. That would be the difference, that we would get to know one another. Not necessarily to learn each other's language all the way, but to be able to get along with people, no matter where they are in the world. We are one human race. And we have set up boundaries, and we have set up borders, and we have set up rules and regulations that forbid a great number of people from participating in what a lot of people get to participate in. And I think you know exactly what I'm speaking to. It's not equal out there. It really is not. Thank you, Cheryl. And thanks for being with me too, by the way. Love you. Thanks so much. So I really come to this point that if we cannot bring about equality in this country, city by city, just saw some stuff about Atlanta and what's going on there. I don't want to pick a city apart because it's not just Atlanta. There's still protests going on all over this country. All you got to do is check one of these screens behind me and see what they're saying. And who are they talking to now? What mayor is speaking or what governor is speaking? Is the president talking about it much anymore? Don't know, because I stopped watching all of it, except for a minor bit that I might pick up. Because I don't want to live with that thought in my mind all the time. But am I going to hide my head in the sand on this? Absolutely not. And neither should you. Neither should you, because we are the people of the United States of America. We are the people of the world. Our governments were formed to represent you. They work for us. When was the last time they really did? When was the last time Washington, D.C. actually worked for the people? Other than lobbyists. And I'm going to say the word. And there's probably people that I know that are lobbyists and going to go, I don't like you now. Well, you don't have to. You don't have to be quite honest with you. When I ran for office in 2008 in the great state of Maine for the House of Representatives, I saw some stuff and I was like, what is this? What are these people doing outside the doors when we come out of chamber? Very interesting. Very interesting. And I'm not pointing the finger at any one person, but they're there because they're allowed to be there, and they represent businesses that they'll go to a senator or a representative. I'm not picking on Maine now. I love the state of Maine, and I love each and every one of you, as well as I do my home state of Massachusetts and now Florida. I love this country. I love all of you. But here's the thing. Lobbyists have invaded the halls of justice. They are there specifically to take care of their business. And they want that senator or that representative to hear them. They want their voice. They want their ear so that they can say, hey, I'm going to do this for you and your constituents. A lot of talk lately about why, based on the income, do they come away from there? And by the way, they're there too long. Term limits are necessary. And now you're saying, you said you weren't going to talk politics. It isn't political. It's the way it is. And we, the people, have got to understand this is not the way it was supposed to be. It was supposed to be part-time. So how come they're there for 30 or 40 years? Where is this true? Where is this right? I will compliment the great state of Maine. That's not the case because they have limited terms and they have a part-time legislature and then they have a full-time. 1 year part-time, 1 year is a full-time. And they run 2 years consecutively and then they can rerun for 2 years. And this is the House of the Senate. And then they have to be out. And then they got to wait 2 years before they can even think of coming back. The governor the same way, except it's 4 years. As the president is 4 years, and the president is termed in 8 years total. If he wins, or she, shall that happen in the future, wins that reelection. But I've come to a point where I'm getting old. I'm dealing with stuff in life that you deal with in older age. And I've come to a point also to say it is time for this stuff to be spoken about. I may never get on here and do this again. And somebody's saying, woo, thank you very much, because I don't even want to watch you anymore. I don't want to hear this. Well, that's okay. That is really okay. If you feel that that's how it is about what I'm saying, that is your prerogative. That's your choice. You see, we were created with an individual mind that most of us don't use. Most of us are following the sheep home, or like they say, the cattle never come home unless you go get them, right? The cows. Well, I'm sorry, but too many people are acting that way. They're following party lines that say, this is what you're going to say, and this is what you're going to do, and this is the way it is. And if we want to talk about this news and these cameras and these TV screens, fact checking is huge these days as to what's really true. They said there's a huge rise in coronavirus in Florida right now, that the numbers are staggering. They're going up so high. I don't know if that's all true. I don't know if that's all true. I believe if it was true, there'd be something being done about it. And there are some hot spots. They said that Jacksonville had some hot spots. I'm not sure about Orlando, but some of the places once things start to open up again, if somebody is still sick, maybe somebody's sick. Are they going to test positive for it? Possibly. I have to be very precautious because I have a compromised immune system with this cancer. That's just the way it is. However, I've been very healthy other than medical stuff that's going on based on drugs that they want to give me to keep this cancer in check. That's the stuff that's making me sick. That's the stuff that's causing me not to feel good. And yeah, probably 3 years ago, being told I was terminal with less than a year to live, 6 months to a year, I could probably say God bless those drugs right now, right? And those doctors and those nurses and everybody that's helped me because I probably wouldn't be sitting here talking to all of you right now if that was the case. It is just amazing what's going on right now. I say this and I get on to say this today, and I said, I didn't know how long this would go or how short it would go. I didn't know how many people would actually be here and want to stay here. Not sure I have too many left. If you are still here, please say so. I appreciate that. If you've got anything to say, contraire or otherwise, you can do that as well. Matter of fact, in the future, I think there's probably going to be maybe a little bit more discussion about something on this lines, because we've got to stay with the words that I renamed this show, Let's Get Real. And that's really it, and that's where it's coming from. So I hope and pray, as I said, that you are all well. I hope that you stay well. I hope that COVID stays away from your door and your family. I hope that they come up with something, and I pray they come up with something. That's probably more the right word, to eliminate it. And I say they, the medical profession, the scientists, etc., are claiming that there is something on the horizon. They also claim that we're looking at another increase in the fall. That won't be too fun. We barely have an economy rising up now. And as far as people getting back to work and the economy looking so great, fact check that too, because that's basically people that have gone back to work if they could go back to work in the States, depending on what state they're in and what business, because some businesses didn't make it. A lot of fallout in this one. Some people say, well, the tough remain, the strong will survive. I guess I could say that after 3 years of being told I was going to be dead in 6 months to a year. The strong will survive. But that strong is also mindset. And it's a lot to do with this mindset. It's a lot to do with what's going on up here and not looking at the negatives and not believing all the negatives and not feeding into that stuff. Because you know what? A great man who was a mentor of mine for many years, Mr. Zig Ziglar, said it this way: garbage in, garbage out. And another great man, Mr. Jim Rohn, said, you will become like the 5 people you hang around with and listen to the most. And I added the listen to, because Jim was an amazing man as well, just like Zig, but different. And Jim said, you will become like the 5 people you hang around with the most. Put that one on for a second and think about it. Think about the people you hang around with and listen to and congregate with on any given day or a Friday or a weekend or after work. Or, is it really feeding you what you need for you and your family? This is where I put the coaching hat on, because I've been that for a long time now too. And I had to become my first client a long time ago because I felt really negative about things. And lo and behold, I wind up with something I never expected, and that was cancer. I have to believe at this point in life, here I am. I'm still doing good. My blood pressure is good. My counts are staying under the double digits, which they say is life for me right now. Because if it goes past 10, that's when it wants to spread and go to other organs in the body. And we're keeping it there, hoping July I think it's July 1st or the end of this month anyway. I go back and I'll have those blood tests done again. Going back every month now. Used to be every 6 months, then it went to 3 months, and now it's down to a month. To try to make sure that I can keep this in check and keep longevity in my life. And there's no way in the world, if I sat home and thought about all the negatives going on out there, that I would make it. I would not make it. I can tell you a true story. When I was first diagnosed, within the first 6 months, my wife Emily and I bought a beautiful boat. We were going to head down the coast of New England through the Cape Cod Canal and come to Florida for the winter with that big boat. We never made it into the water because then I was diagnosed, and then we put it up for sale. And we went to the management office of the boatyard up in Maine and said, listen, we've got to get this sold. Oh, what's going on? I thought you were going to, no, sorry, we're not going to be able to do that. And I explained to the lady behind the desk, and she broke out into tears. And I'm an emotional guy. I just, I said, I'm sorry. Well, thank you very much. She said, I wish you had met my husband. Excuse me? I wish you had met my husband. He was diagnosed with the same thing you were a year ago. a year before me. I said, well, he was diagnosed. She said, yes, he's no longer with us. Oh my gosh, I swallowed hard. I said, well, what happened? She said, he went and they told him he had 6 months to a year to live. He believed it, said, this is it. My life is over. I've got 6 months to a year, got all their affairs in order, sold all kinds of things, sat in his chair and died in 6 months. That's a true story. True story. Thank you, Cheryl. So tell me that this mindset doesn't have something to do with how you live your life. If you feed the garbage in, that's all that's going to come out is garbage. If you feed the positive in, and I don't mean you can change the world. I don't mean that I can say, snap my fingers and get rid of cancer. I thought I could. Honestly, I did, because I kicked it for a long time and I was without it. And then I became complacent, thinking, hey, I got this done, right? And all of last summer, I did nothing. In fact, even my eating habits went bad a little bit because we were traveling, and I just didn't think about the how I had set myself up for a great diet, a lot of vegetables and lean meats, and some people say, oh, you just eat vegetables, that's all you should eat. I eat a lot of vegetables and have eaten a lot of vegetables based on what medical saying. Thank you. Absolutely, Cheryl. Yeah, that's the wrong way to go about it. You are doing all the right stuff, not sitting at home. Live your life. Thank you. Thank you, Cheryl. It isn't easy. It isn't easy. No, and any more than it's easy to listen and watch what's going on out there right now in our country and this world. That stuff isn't easy either, because it makes your head swim. And Cheryl, you remember, and I don't know if you were on earlier, we used to have to go underneath the desks when we were in school years and years ago. And by the way, guys, just let the cat out of the bag. I've known Cheryl for many, many, many. How many many's am I supposed to add there, Cheryl? Many years. In fact, when I was just first going to junior high school, and I knew you before that, Cheryl, I believe. When I was going to junior high school, Cheryl's mom was the school bus driver that picked me up and brought me to school. How's that? So that's a lot of years ago right now. Since I just said I completed 67 revolutions around the world and I'm in my 68th, a long time ago. So God bless you, Cheryl. Yeah. So think about the stuff that's going on out there right now and how you are reacting. And I'd like to say this about that. When you react to things and what we call a knee-jerk reaction, you will find that you won't really do it the way you should do it. I'm going to put it that way, try to be very blunt with it. If you could say, hold on, wait a minute, time out, and then respond to the situation, time out, and then respond to it, you're going to come through it a lot better. And I didn't necessarily mean this to be a coaching call. That's what I do with my clients. The bottom line is we have so much junk going on out there right now. And I'm sorry to call it junk. I really am. But if you listen to and believe everything that's going on out there, and you say, well, who are we supposed to believe? Isn't that really the crime of it? Who are we supposed to believe? Do your fact checking, look into things, try to get to the bottom of it before you have a reaction. Have a response to it, be concerned about it, and then get the real facts. And again, politics aside, because there are two sides. And right now, going into an election in November, it's getting to be crazy again. And I ain't picking no sides on this one. I don't have a dog in the fight, as they say. I'm not going to, because I've got enough. I've got enough going on with this life right now. I want longevity. I want some more years. And I pray to God I'm going to get them. So I'm going to do it with my diet, my mindset, living a good life, enjoying getting out and doing some things, and also living my life as best I can with this right here that I read. And if you're coming onto this late and you care to go back, do a rewind on it and listen to what I did say. Again, you may agree with it, you may not agree with it. But the bottom line is, if we lived our lives like it says in what I wrote, what I wrote and what I read on the show here today, wow, what a different world we'd live in. We wouldn't have all this crap going on. And we wouldn't have had it hundreds of years ago either if they did, because that's where it started. Racial inequality and people being treated less than started many years ago. And I'm not going to haul that all into the court today, but I'll tell you what, think about that and think about the fact we can change that. We can. And we can stop the hatred, and we can stop the killing, and we can stop the looting. What do we have to do it? Talk. At least I see some open dialogue happening. At least I see there's some room to say, okay, enough of the BS. Let's get to the brass tacks and let's stop this once and for all. I thought it was gone a long time ago. And how wrong am I? See, I'll admit if I'm wrong. How wrong am I and how wrong was I to think that we don't have these problems anymore? I was benign, I guess, with everything that's going on in my life, because I love and care about everybody. I don't care what the color of their skin is. I love the people all the same. Does it mean that there are people of another color other than me that would treat me with disrespect? Of course. That is the way it is. But there's plenty of people that are the same color with me as I am that would treat me with disrespect and not like what I'm saying right now today. And that is a fact. Period. And that's really what it comes down to. Think about how you want to be treated. And what Jesus Christ did when he was sent here by God to serve us, and so that we could be forgiven for our sins and our transgressions in this world. How many thousand years ago? Oh, yeah, a couple, huh? What year are we in? 2020? The beginning of a new era was when Jesus was hung on that cross to pay for our sins and our transgressions, our wrongdoings. What have we done with that all those years? Each one of us thinks it's just all about us. Is anybody thinking? And I'm not pointing fingers or picking, but there's a lot of people out there that have a self-servant attitude about things. It's all about them, and it's nothing to do with you. If we were a we society instead of a me society, we wouldn't have nearly any of the issues going on out there. Oh, yeah, there's always going to be something. There's always going to be something going on. But this world would clean itself up. I was reading the other day, and I'm about to say I almost believe this because, this is a huge, huge, huge area that this ball of this planet called Earth spins around in. This universe is huge. Not only that, they've now proven scientifically there's at least can't even tell you the number, 100 million others that they can say that for sure they're out there that are equal or larger than our own universe. Well, think about that. If God, and I'm going to use the word if, just to give you a perspective on it, if God is the creator, which I believe he is, and many of my friends do, he created all of that, every bit of it, even to the point if there was another type of being on another planet. Oh, here we go. We're talking about lost worlds and aliens. Well, this is what brings it up. The other day I read an article and it was pretty interesting. It said, after all we've been going through and all the racial inequality that's back on the table again, and all the looting and all the protesting and all the problems and the killings, the killing of police officers. I don't want to not mention that. They're there for our protection. Does that mean they're all perfect? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. And they will tell you that they are also human beings, and there unfortunately are some amongst their ranks that are not perfect, that will make mistakes. And those mistakes have been coming out lately. And with the ability to take a little phone and take a picture or a video, they're coming out even more, aren't they? But here's what was said. And I had to think about this for a minute. So what's going to happen in July, friends? What do you mean? What are they talking about now? What's going to happen in July? The aliens are coming. This is all a preset for that. Well, I started to laugh. And say, are you kidding? What are they talking about? But then I thought about it and said, you know what? Would you be surprised if that happened right now? Would you be surprised if that happened? Oh my goodness. Probably not. Probably not. It'd be like, well, we just went through all these weeks of COVID and being locked up and told we couldn't go to a store. We can't go to a restaurant. You have to put a mask on everywhere you go. You got to stay 6 feet apart. What next? That was the point. That was the point. Not to make fun of whether the aliens are here or they're not here or there's any such thing. The bottom line is that's what this person said. Yeah, I guess that's what's next. We might as well just plan on the aliens arriving in the month of July. There was a movie made about that, something about 4th of July, if I remember. There was also a radio show many years called The War of the Worlds. And it was on radio, so people huddled around their radio. And it was said before the beginning of the show that this is a show. This is not real. This is just a radio show that's been produced to say, if this was to happen, this is what it would be like. People didn't even listen to that part of it, or they came on late. All they heard and saw was, in their minds saw, there's aliens have landed in Washington, D.C. There's spaceships that are here now, and they're going to take over the world. Talk about fear. Talk about scaring people. I mean, all kinds of stuff happened from that one. So what if they showed up? Would we have that same pandemic all over again? Would people be scared? I mean, literally scared. What would you do? And I don't mean to get off base with this, but I'll tell you what. I hope and I pray that we as a people, not just the United States of America, but everywhere on this planet, can stop pulling it together and recognizing we've got to take care of ourselves. We've got to take care of each other. We've got to stop letting people and children starve and drink mud for their morning breakfast and be treated like slaves, both sexually and otherwise, in the gold mines and the diamond mines. The list goes on and on and on about, you want to talk about inequality. You want to start checking on some stuff. That's all still real. Slave trading is going on in this country, and it's real. And they don't want me to talk about it. They don't want anybody to talk about it. They want you to pretend it isn't even happening. But it's all for what? Greed? Money? Because money is power. And they believe that with money, they have everything. They have everything they've ever wanted. Well, you may get everything you ever wanted in this life, standing and sitting on this planet. But when you leave, you're going to get nothing, because nothing is going with you. Period. And that's what I concern myself with. What's happening when I leave? And I already said, the preface in the very beginning, I am a sinner. I know I've done a lot of wrong in my life. No question about it. A lot of wrong's been done to me too. And I'm not going to cry about it. It's water over the dam. It is what it is. Life goes on, and we must live it the way we want to live it. And again, I guess that's what's happening out there right now, isn't it? People are living it the way they want to live it, with blinders on, and just don't want to hear this stuff. They don't want to see it. They don't want it talked about. We've got to get it open. We've got to open it up, and there's got to be dialogue, and everybody's got to be on board. This is your country, ladies and gentlemen. It's not the government's country. The government is supposed to be limited to their power and scope of what they're allowed to do. They are not supposed to say, you will do what I say. I know there has to be rules. I'm not saying go against those rules. But it was clearly set up from day one, whether they like it or not, that we are the people of the United States of America. And in order to form a more perfect union. And it goes on from there, as you well know. So think about that. Agree or disagree. You can send me I disagree with you wholeheartedly if you like. Put it in the comments. Send me a message later if you're a friend of mine on Facebook. Whichever you choose. It is your choice. It is your choice, as it is mine. But for me and mine, we believe, we have faith. We have faith in all of you. We love all of you. I love all of you. And that's the way it's going to stay. With that, I am Jeffrey Miller. I'm going to close this one up. And somebody's going, he's done. No, I'm not done. I'm not near done. I'm just getting started. But as far as this show today, I'm going to put a cap on it. Thank you guys so very, very much for being here with me today. I love each and every one of you. Everybody that posted comments, I will get back and thank you all at end of broadcast. Shows are every Tuesday and Thursday. If you still choose to listen, we have some fantastic guests coming on talking about all types of things about, hey, let's get real. Thanks again from the I Am Radio TV network, I Am TV studio. I am Jeffrey Miller, and I am now off the air. Thanks so very much. Bye-bye.